This is the Prague Metro. Since the opening of the first line in 1974, it has become the backbone of the centuries-old city's public transport system. For this revolutionary new project, an all-new, modern train set was supposed to be developed for the city's new underground railways. However, due to development issues and partly due to political meddling, it never came to be. In this video, we'll tell the story of the Tatra R1, the modern train set that was never given a chance. Before the video starts, please consider subscribing, it would be much appreciated. Thanks, and on to the video. Proposals for an underground rapid transit system for Prague have been made since the end of the 19th century. However, due to economic reasons, ongoing wars, or the fact that Prague's public transport infrastructure wasn't that overloaded at that time, these proposals were rejected. However, that all changed in the 1960s. At that point, the city mostly relied on trams for public transportation, with some trains, buses, and trolleybuses. While these are amazing public transport vehicles, the demand for transport exceeded the capacity that they could provide. The city was rapidly growing, and its transport infrastructure simply wasn't up to the task anymore. Originally, instead of the fully fledged, heavy metro system we all know and love today, Prague was supposed to have an underground tram system. Finally, in the mid-1960s, a plan for an underground tram line was approved, and in January 1966, construction of Prague's first underground transit line began. However, it soon became clear that an underground tram line wouldn't be able to cope with the sheer amount of demand for public transportation in the city. And so, in 1967, following the advice of Soviet advisors, it was decided that Prague will be getting a full heavy metro, similar to those in the Soviet Union and other Eastern Bloc states. Although the underground tram idea was abandoned, you can still see remnants of the original plan today. This is Hlavní nádraží, a station on the Sea Line that serves the Prague main train station. This station was the first to be excavated, and so, as per the original plan, it's a double platform station. Later stations on the first segment of the Sea Line, with the exception of Vyšehrad, which we'll get to later, are all single platform stations. So, the new plan was set. Prague was going to get a full, heavy metro system, just like many other cities in the Eastern Bloc. Now, they needed to find a suitable train set. Czechoslovakia, with its long legacy of public transport vehicle manufacturing, set out to produce vehicles for the new metro on its own. Development started in the summer of 1968 by ČKD Tatra Smíchov, the designer and manufacturers of the iconic Tatra T3 tram. In fact, the same lead engineer and designer who worked on the T3 tram, Antonín Honzik and František Kardaus respectively, worked on the R1 metro train set as well. The R1 was ahead of its time. It used very light and modern materials for the time, like aluminium and fiberglass, which helped to reduce its weight. Making the vehicle as light as possible was crucial for the first Prague Metro line, because of its route. The route of the first segment of the Sea Line crosses a deep valley, between the stations of Vyšehrad and IP Pavlova. The engineers decided to bridge over the valley, so that the whole line wouldn't need to be extremely deep in the ground to compensate. This is the Nusle Bridge, located in the Prague district of the same name. It serves as a road bridge on the surface, however, for the purposes of this video, we'll focus on what's under the road surface. The Nusle Bridge has a metro tunnel built just under the road surface, connecting the stations of Vyšehrad and IP Pavlova. This routing is the reason why Vyšehrad is a double platform station. It needed to be, because otherwise, the bridge would have to be built wider. Because of the route, and by extension, the bridge and the tunnel, were initially made for an underground tram system, it was imperative that the R1 be light as possible, to preserve the structural integrity of the bridge. Just as the development of the R1 was getting started, monumental political events were brewing just under the surface. 1968 was a big year for Czechoslovakia. More moderate communists took control of the Communist Party of Czechoslovakia, and soon after, a period of liberalization, relaxation of censorship and more openness began, commonly known as the Prague Spring. However, the central government of the USSR didn't like Czechoslovakia opening up, and so, on the 21st of August 1968, at 11 p.m. Central European Time, Czechoslovakia was invaded by 4 Warsaw Pact armies. What followed was a swift return to hardline communist rule and the direct occupation of Czechoslovakia by Soviet troops. This affected many parts of Czechoslovak life, But most importantly for this video, the 1968 invasion could have had an effect on the Tatra R1's fate. After the invasion, Soviet influence over Czechoslovakia's government increased. As a consequence of this, it is widely believed that one factor in the ultimate scrapping of the R1 project was political meddling from the USSR. However, let's not put our tinfoil hats on. While yes, political meddling from the USSR almost certainly affected the R1's fate, a lot of the reasons why the R1 project was ultimately scrapped were far more benign. First of all, the new, lightweight design unfortunately didn't meet general and fire safety standards, and so, the prototype had to be remade, and its weight had to be increased. Second, the production capacity of ČKD Tatra Smíchov wasn't enough to support production of the T3 tram model, let alone the R1 Metro train set. But to be fair, this was mostly caused by 10,000 T3s being exported to the USSR, which clogged up ČKD Tatra Smíchov's production capacity. Third, it wasn't certain if the issues could be solved before 1974, before the planned launch of the metro service in Prague. Ultimately, in 1971, it was decided that the older, technically inferior, but proven E-series metro train sets from the USSR would serve as the rolling stock for Prague's new metro line. Engineers and designers at the Mytyshchinský mašinostrojitelný zavod, I totally butchered that but it's okay, got to work adapting the E-series metro train set for Prague. In the end, they came up with this, the EČS. Just looking at the EČS, you can see the older, more dated design compared to the Tatra R1. It was also considerably heavier than even the redesigned Tatra R1 prototype, which necessitated a change in the Nusla Bridge's metro tunnel. Because of the increased weight of the rolling stock, a steel rag had to be inserted into the bridge to spread the increased pressure throughout the bridge tunnel, ensuring that the bridge doesn't collapse. Even back in 1974, the EČS was a dated train set. While proven, the EČS couldn't hold a candle to newer trains. ČKD Tatra Smíchov had a real opportunity to push the standards of metro train sets further, but ultimately, the R1 was cancelled and faded into obscurity, its legacy living on in books, in this 1:10 scale model in a museum, and in YouTube videos made by transit nerds. Anyway, thank you so much for watching to the end, you're a real legend. If you'd like to support my work, I have a Ko-Fi page with 3 membership tiers, all of which bring you sweet benefits, like early access to my videos. I'd also like to take this time to thank Monday's Last Brain Cell for supporting the channel with the top membership tier. I can't express how grateful I am for the support. Enjoy the bloopers, this has been Tramley and I'll see you next time. Bye! Development started in the summer of 1968 by ČKD. It is widely believed that just looking at the EČS, you can see... Bro...